Good morning, good day, good evening. And at your best, you are cared for. Welcome to GatherVerse Summit, Fathom 2023. Fashion, art, technology, humanity, open source, music. No, today you will not find Via Spiga, Prada, and Gucci avatars running rampant on our screens today. But you will find those that are experts when it comes to these discussions. You're here with us at GatherVerse. We gather and meet at the intersection of humanity and technology. We've brought an array of speakers globally from around the world to talk on these subjects of music and art and design and artificial intelligence, the metaverse, spatial computing, call it what you will. We're going to lean in and have some very candid and frank discussions, and at the same time, draw a better sense on where we are today when it comes to fashion that plays such a persistent role in culture. Whether we realize it or not, we're subject to what the markets provide to us unless we're making our own clothing, which is the very small few of us. Fashion is a statement. Fashion is a culture. Fashion is a technology. Fashion is an art. And right now, art and design are being extended into new hyper realities. But when we think about this one-to-one comparison of this digital narrative, might we be mindful of what happens in the real world when it comes to innovation and emerging technologies, such as generative pre-trained transformers and large language foundational models, and what that means towards ultimately the preservation of our arts, of the communities that matter so much. You can have art without technology, but you cannot have technology without art. Share this. Share this story. Share these stories of what you see today. GatherVerse is a community that assembles the whole entire world of people that are here with us, and we're so happy to see so many of you that stay with us, and we see you at GatherVerse.live, where the majority of you are, and it's always outstanding and almost emotional to see how many people turn up for these events, to see that people still care about the intersection of humanity and technology. We give a special shout out to those in our social channels that we're also broadcasting to, whether it's on Facebook and a few that are on YouTube, and there's certain places we won't broadcast anymore, but we're happy to see those also on LinkedIn. This is the next step. This is our next phase together with so many more events and announcements that we have coming out soon. But today, in this session, we talk about fashion. I have an expert with us today. We have someone named Nova Lorraine who's joining us. We're so very happy to have her to share her expression, her thoughts when it comes to fashion. She's one of the very best in the business to share just a little bit of time with us. We ask that you share these stories, these free stories, these open stories, because right now information is so subjected to misinformation. And unfortunately, in the reality is disinformation. In fact, the whole ecosystem of information is under assault right now with AI. Peer-to-peer, human-to-human information is a wonderful thing. We'll be right back up with Nova. Greetings and welcome. We're so happy to have everyone here with us today. As we bring in Nova Lorraine, Nova, your mic, We're so very happy to have you here today at GatherVerse FATHOM Summit 2023, dealing with fashion, art, technology, humanity, open source music. We're very valued and welcomed to have your presence here today to expand on the understanding of the relatability of fashion that plays such a persistent role in our communities and what it means to us in the world, not just digitally, but humanely. Nova, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? So excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you here with us as GatherVerse as we gather Earth's communities at this intersection of humanity and technology. And we lean in and lean forward to be able to explore what these technologies mean for us and how it influences our lives. And with fashion being what it is when it comes to culture, what are you seeing today? What is the current state of fashion at this intersection of virtual reality, augmented reality, spatial computing, the metaverse, so forth and so on? What does it look like from your lens today?
I love this question. Actually, I'm writing a book about this. The book actually captures where we are right now in the intersection of fashion and how emerging technology is impacting the future of this industry. And the book is called Fashion AI and the Digital Age of Fashion. So definitely go to fashionai.ai. You can get more information. But to answer your question, it's a really, really fascinating time. And a couple of decades ago, there was a book called The End of Fashion, written by fashion business journalist Terry Agents. And I remember reading it and the stories of the various brands that were captured in that book. And what she was sharing as a takeaway, and I didn't get it then, but the takeaway was that we are seeing a fundamental shift in how fashion is done and how clothes are manufactured and marketed. And it was really giving hints to fast fashion. And what at the time that term didn't exist, but exists now, and we see the results of that.
Hmm.
And I feel that if we were empowered with where we would be fast forward 2 decades, as we scaled on manufacturing, as how we diverted manufacturing to certain areas and how they're done, and that it's not always ethical, we see where we are now in terms of the not so sustainable parts of the industry. And when you have technology such as blockchain and artificial intelligence and you know AR, VR, XR, these immersive experiences being brought into virtual spaces, and how fashion is going to play a role in these environments and how these technologies are going to impact fashion. It's really, really fascinating. And you mentioned some named and notable brands earlier, and we see these legacy brands really taking a leap forward and showing some very interesting use cases as relates to smart contracts powered by blockchain, aka NFTs. We're seeing metaverse fashion shows, so how to experience fashion in virtual spaces. We're looking at very hyper realistic 3D design of avatars and influencers that don't exist. They only are existing in the 3D form of themselves. And again, sometimes powered by AI. And then we're looking at artificial intelligence. And I think we have to put it in two buckets right now. AI has been around for a while. A lot of our social media platforms have been powered by AI. A lot of our mainstream softwares that help us every single day have been powered by AI. Our search engines have been powered by AI. But when we're looking at fashion now and what the buzz is about, it includes the generative AI, which is at the forefront through a lot of the creative use cases that we're seeing. And then on the other in the other bucket is AI that's helping with data analytics and trend forecasting and supply chain management. And there are some really, really great benefits of how AI can improve sustainability, how it can improve workflow and efficiency, and help bring in more ethical practices as it relates to fashion production. So I see these technologies really taking one of the oldest industries in the world and turning it on its head. And I believe the result is going to benefit the consumer, both in storytelling. We've seen some really fun examples thanks to LVMH, Gucci, but then also in more personalized, customized, on demand fashion that really speaks to who we are as individuals.
Why now? Why are we seeing this explosion of fashion in such a sense? Is it just because we have the capability? Is there something more in terms of desire? What do you think the next game, not perhaps the end game, it's a bit much, but what do you think the next game is? And why are we seeing this today, this explosion of fashion?
Right. So as it relates to emerging tech and the use cases, you'll notice that they are your larger brands, more notable brands, and they understand the power of storytelling. And fashion touches everybody. And to your point earlier, you can't have tech without art. And Apple is still to this day one of the best use cases as bringing art and design together with technology. And so understanding that our generations and their needs and desires are changing, these brands to stay relevant have to adopt emerging technology. They have to get ahead of it, and they have to understand how to incorporate it in storytelling to appeal to a changing demographic in terms of what they want and the experiences they want. And because it is something that touches everyone, like music and food, it's a conversation that everyone can have. So it benefits the tech industry because it's something that's relatable, but it benefits the companies that are taking the chance on this new technology because it's allowing them to appeal to a new audience. It's allowing them to reach an audience that never purchased before, but it's also allowing them to stay relevant and use the tech to their advantage to stay ahead as it relates to storytelling. And then also, let's not forget data. Data is gold these days. So it also affords them a whole new realm of data acquisition and analytics.
Artificial intelligence, generative pre-trained transformers, AI. You and I offline have had incredible discussions. You certainly know how to wrap your mind around that. When it comes to AI, what role does it play in fashion today? I'm very curious to know what you're seeing out there, Nova.
Yeah, love this question as well. I'm very visual. I love storytelling, as you know, so I'm gonna keep it simple. And then let's look at a pie and slice it into three. And let's start at the back end of the pie and work our way forward. And so on the back end, you have your raw materials and what is brought together to then bring in house to be assembled and developed to then bring to the forefront where it touches the consumer. So on the back end, we have the raw materials and AI helping identify sustainable textiles. We have it identify processes that can save on water usage. We have it identify workflows that will save on water usage. And so when we're talking about this issue of waste and we're talking about this issue of power management and more sustainable materials that can be scaled, this is where AI can come into place. Also, as an independent designer or even as a large brand or producer, and you want to simplify how to find more sustainable manufacturers or factories, how to find these more sustainable textiles. Well, again, you'll have AI being able to play matchmaker and make that process more efficient than in the past and allow these producers of textiles, allow these manufacturers that have implemented these more ethical labor practices and more efficient workflow processes into their business model to be found more easily. Now let's move into the second slice where you have employees, you have your decision makers, your stakeholders, and how does AI impact this group of individuals? Well, you're going to allow your team members to get a lot of time back to focus on more higher level thinking and projects and tasks by allowing automation to take the lead in some more mundane everyday projects and tasks that individuals were doing. You also have it being able to push the boundaries of creativity as it relates to designers and creatives, where they can play with the tools and imagine things that they may not have imagined without the tools. You have product development and the efficiency and scale of products, and where you can produce more concepts and not only produce more, but test those concepts before they're brought into physical reality, again, aiding on reducing waste as it relates to materials. You have the ability to identify sizes and create sizing that is more personalized. So you have less returns from the consumer. And then you have the ability to get input in from the consumer before the product is made into real life. But then also you're able to personalize that experience to them. And then let's move to the external, where the storytelling takes place. And with AI, but then also with other technologies such as blockchain and augmented reality and immersive spaces, aka the metaverse and virtual worlds, you're able to deliver something that's so much more dynamic and multidimensional than what consumers have been experiencing. You know, you can go into a retailer and see and experience a hologram. You can step in front of a smart mirror that allows you to switch colors of the outfit that you're trying on. You are able to, you know, walk down the street and see this object coming out of the building in real time. And so there's so many things that these technologies are impacting, you know, from the front end, from storytelling and directly touching the consumer, all the way to acquiring the raw materials.
Indeed, and thank you for sharing that, Nova. And with our final question that we have, which is for me a big one, and I know it certainly is for you, when we look at this intersection of accessibility and equity, equality, safety and privacy and wellness and ethics, and really humane first standards when it comes to the approach to technology, what does that mean today to the fashion world as a whole? Are these shared concerns when we start thinking about equitable access and accessibility and startup development and the opportunity for those to get involved that may not have an understanding of where we're headed? Because it seems to me the cadence and the tempo of technology has accelerated in such a fashion that when we deal with art like fashion and its marriage pairing of emerging technologies, that for many the train might be moving too fast. What are you seeing, and what does that mean to you, Nova?
Yeah, thank you for that. And there's a lot to unpack there. And I think one of the things I would like to start with is the reason why you and I are here. And it's to use education to empower and to bring access. And, you know, should there be concerns? Absolutely, there should be concerns. But I feel that when you understand the technologies and how they work, there is more excitement than there are concerns if you can choose to be intentional on how you use it and how you want it to impact you. You know, we all have a voice in where this tech goes. We have a voice in how it's used. And so if we turn a blind eye and ignore it, then the decisions are going to be continue to come from the innovators, the scientists, the researchers, the engineers. And that's such a small percentage of the population. You know, creators, entrepreneurs, women, individuals of color, anyone, moms, dads, they need to be at the table having a conversation and seeing how these emerging technologies are going to impact their day-to-day lives. More importantly, how do they want it to impact their day-to-day lives? And so, you know, for what drives me every day is the humanity in the technology. And if we remove that component, then why are we doing any of this? If it's going to ultimately hurt us and put us at a disadvantage, what is the purpose and why should we participate? But also to the point that you made, there are so many opportunities here. You know, I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'm a woman of color. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Jamaica. There were so many times when doors were closed to me, and it was education and awareness and knowledge that inspired me to continue to push forward, to not be a number or statistic, to follow my heart, to follow my passions, to inspire and educate others. Because with information is where you can make decisions. And so knowledge alone isn't going to, you know, give you wisdom. It's you taking that knowledge and deciding how to apply it. But if we can, through or communities like GatherVerse, empower individuals with the basic information so they move from a place of empowerment and excitement rather than from a place of fear and lack, then we can really see the benefits of this technology. So just to quote some numbers, there is a lot of fear around job loss. And we've seen that, you know, in reports, about 84 million jobs will be lost. And then the conversation may just stop there and everyone is, oh, well, where's it going to go? What am I going to do? But if you read further, it also says 97 million will be created. That's a net of 12 million. So then the conversation is, well, how will that impact me? What are these jobs? Can I be, a creator of a new job, a new role, a new title? Can I empower myself with this technology to maybe start my own enterprise or my own business? Or as an artist, I can use it to empower myself, getting to directly to my consumer or giving my community more of what they want. So, and at scale where I don't necessarily need to wait for an investor to say yes to move forward, and which is oftentimes what holds a lot of us back. And so there's so many opportunities here. And I feel that we've been given this really great gift of a toolbox. And it's up to us to go in and dig and test and play and talk to each other and share the positive results of what these technologies can bring to humanity.
Nova, you're one of the best in the business. Audience at GatherVerse.live, with all of you that are at our various social streams, follow this leader, this influencer of change for culture, who we are so happy to have with us quite evidently today. Nova, thank you for taking the time to join with us.
Thank you so much, Christopher. This was amazing. We've been talking for a long time, and I'm so excited to finally join you here on stage and to be a part of this incredible community and the change that it's making. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nova. To those that are still with us, for those that have just joined us, we've already gotten started, and we only have a little bit more time to do this. Up next, we've assembled an incredible panel to extend further into the understanding of fashion, but more about humanity. Thank you for joining us. Tell a friend, send a message, send a thread, a tweet, a text.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. Well, good morning to everyone, and I'd like to thank you for joining today's discussion as we discuss fabric of humanity, fashion roles, and societal change. And let's start off by doing a brief introduction. Let me just pick on someone. You know what? Love. I think we should start off with you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm happy to be here. My name is Ivania Easley. I'm the founder of Love E Fashion, Style by Love E. I am a certified personal stylist and published author, as well as a retail tech founder. I built a platform where you can order a personal stylist on demand, as well as I do 3D virtual reality fashion show activations.
Sounds good. Let's go to our left. My left, that'd be Jamie.
Hi, good morning. I am the founder of Pink October and Peachy Bottoms. Pink October is a digital stationery company, and Peachy Bottoms is our fashion line that includes custom sizing for all of our pieces. We're really excited to be here today.
Well, thank you. And Ricky?
Amazing. Stoked to be here with you guys. My background is mostly in helping small companies sell to big companies. So for the last, I started working mostly in photo and video production. And with that, there was a lot of luxury goods brands and helping kind of tell visual stories to customers. But for the last 3 years, it's been more focused on virtual world building and how do we create these immersive environments to engage our external audiences, improve our manufacturing processes around our products, and even onboard and train new employees. I also host the Metaverse podcast, where I talk to mostly creatives and technologists about how we can lean into these emerging technologies like XR tech, AI, and blockchain technologies.
Okay, great. Well, as I mentioned, my name is Rose, and I am the GatherVerse Director for Africa. And let's just dive right in because I think we have a lot of stuff that we could cover in this time. So let's start off with the question: how does fashion influence social change and vice versa? So who wants to take that question? Let me see. Ricky.
Yeah, I can jump right in there. So I think as far as the social relationship with fashion, it's really synergetic in both directions, right? So I think a lot of the time fashion is a reflection of our society, especially in high fashion when we think of like runways and things that might not necessarily be designed for mass consumption. So you could think of something like Balenciaga with the flooded runway to comment on the importance of climate change, for example, and like how that's become a really big topic in society. And they're trying to tie that in almost as more of an art piece or a statement. But on the other side, you've got the day-to-day consumer where like the dad bods are super in right now. I know I personally am shaving off pounds from the COVID weight still. And you get these new types of t-shirts that are totally focused on that demographic. There's been a huge uptick in men's t-shirts that are just basic essentials of like whites and earth tones and professional kind of tees for day-to-day life. But a lot of their stories are talking about how do we fit that dad bod aesthetic and make you look your best in that particular style. So I think a lot of the time there's this balance between, do we want to make a big statement in like high fashion, or are we trying to engage with a day-to-day consumer? And there's kind of a reflection of society in both of those categories. I think you might be on mute, Rose.
Yes, thank you. So, Vaughn, you want to hop in on a question? Want to add to that? Yep. The question originally was the influence of social change.
Were you asking me or Jamie?
I was asking you.
Oh, okay. I
Ivania.
wasn't sure. I didn't hear what she said. You didn't say love. I think you said Ivania, right? Okay. No,
Yes.
repeat the question one more time, please, so I can answer it.
Oh, the question I was piggybacking off of what Ricky had said about how fashions influence social change. And as he mentioned, was interesting, the dad bods, right?
Yeah.
Really cute.
No, I think, of course, like he was saying, that our environment, obviously, whether it's high fashion or just the everyday consumer, we're influenced a lot by the influencers that we see on social media, the major designers, as well as the retailers. So, of course, what happens affects what we wear. Even if you go far as back in the day, Diddy had that vote for change or vote or die t-shirt or whatnot. That was influencing the political, climate at the time, but using fashion, music, art, and culture to bring the regular consumers involved outside of the fashion industry in itself. Like, we're a part of the fashion industry as professionals, but we are catering to a lot of consumers that are not in the industry. They just, buy clothes because they have to wear clothes, or they're interested in fashion, but they're not involved from a in-depth perspective. So I think we can dictate a lot of change by what we put out there as people in the fashion industry and in the professional designers, runway shows, all of the things. Even Pharrell with the Louis Vuitton show, with him being the new creative director, a lot of that, he's not obviously somebody that trained at one of the major fashion schools of the world, but they still hired him as a director. He had a great menswear show that really influenced, fashion, art, culture, and bringing a bunch of different components together as far as being relatable to consumers.
You bring up a great point, because you do have those who do go to fashion design school, and then now you have people who don't. That wasn't originally their career path, but they kind of fell into it, being that they're an artist and an influencer. Any thoughts on that? I mean, Steph, anyone can pick that question up. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah. I personally did go to a fashion school. I went to FITM, but I got a graphic design degree. And I have taken that education and pivoted it towards writing fashion articles and blogs, and now with like the Peachy Bottoms line. And there is definitely a big shift in between like my fellow like peers that did go to fashion school for their fashion degree. And, you know, just to be a little personal, I felt really behind the curve because they knew how to do a lot of things that I just don't. And I'm having to self-teach on YouTube and read books and do things like that just to get like the manufacturing part of like creating a line down. So I definitely feel like, you know, some of the disconnect, but I also feel that fashion comes from a lot of different walks of life. And just like Pharrell, you don't have to have a fashion degree to be fashionable. Like for instance, like Sarah Jessica Parker, I don't think she went to fashion school, and she is a fashion icon. Same with Rihanna with Fenty Beauty and her Savage, like women's slash menswear. Like I'm really seeing a big shift in people taking their art forms and not being restricted by having the degree. And I'm really enjoying that.
Just to double click on that a little bit, and sorry if I'm messing with your flow, Rose, but it's I think there's a lot of value in that idea of creators producing products, right? Like we're seeing this huge trend with like Mr. Beast and Feastables or Logan Paul with Prime. It's like these people that have developed a brand that resonates with an audience are starting to develop products as a new form of monetization. And we've seen that in the music industry forever. Like most music artists make a very tiny portion of their revenue from streaming, very, very small portion from maybe ticket sales and concerts, but then merch and building a brand is where they really make their money. I think when I was younger, I thought that a lot of that merch was like, yeah, whatever, it's just a t-shirt. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait, I love repping my favorite band tees. I love wearing that brand when I go out because it gives a like reason to start a conversation. It shows people what I'm about. So like one of my favorite shirts, this was like basically my Friday uniform for a long time, was my Blonded t-shirt for repping Frank Ocean, because I knew that Frank Ocean has this like niche audience where if someone compliments that shirt, if someone calls it out and knows what it is, those are my people. And that's a conversation I want to lean into and be like, wait, you know Blonded? So you mess with Frank. Okay, have you seen Endless? And like it just starts this whole conversation that becomes interesting. And that might open other doors to other pieces of their culture that they're into. And so I kind of took that 3 different directions, but I think that idea of you don't need to be a fashion designer at heart to create good fashion that resonates with people.
Yeah, you do bring up a great point. And that moves us on to the next question, which is how can fashion be used as a platform to raise awareness and also various social issues? Because it seems like it goes beyond fashion and people are actually researching and saying, you know, how is it being made? Where is it being made? Is it tied to, you know, sweatshops and labor? You know, anyone want to take that on? Let me see here. Let's go to Ricky. I'm going to pick you randomly.
Sure thing. Happy to jump right in. So I think when it comes to this idea of like fashion activism, for example, like that's a whole like vertical in itself. Is this it's a whole form of activism, is leveraging fashion. And if you think about what fashion is, it's just a medium of art. Art is expression. Fashion is just a choice of medium. Some people use a canvas, other people use cloth and stitching. And I think that when people think of this, the first thing that might come to mind is like AOC with her Tax the Rich dress, right? And like there's this ability to kind of create a lot of awareness over just like putting a message on a piece or like having a platform, because fashion has these events that get a lot of eyeballs and get a lot of people looking at it. There's other things, like if you look back to the civil rights movement, like the Black Panthers with their berets and the black kind of consistent clothing creates a cohesive message where people start to see, oh, you're a part of this group. We know who you are. We know what you're about. We know what you represent. And that starts to make the message louder. It makes it easier for people to get clarity over the message that that group is trying to get across when they have that kind of uniform, cohesive look and feel to them. That I think that you mentioned a good point on like eco, like manufacturing and how people care more about that. I think that's a big thing in fashion that's difficult to balance, is like they have this platform, they have this amazing ability to express a message or a feeling, but the next phase of that is like, okay, how much is awareness the most important piece? We can drive so much awareness, we can keep shouting into an abyss, but at a certain point, some of these issues are so heard of already. Like climate change is one of those things that like everybody knows about it, and they've developed some sort of stance on if they're going to fully invest their time and be active about it, or if they don't care as much and they'll be inactive about it. Awareness isn't the solution anymore. Kids throwing tomato soup at a Van Gogh painting isn't helping the situation. Like that doesn't do anything. Where brands can start to make a difference and I think have like a real impact is by speaking or practicing what they preach a little bit more. So if you're going to talk about being eco-friendly, the reality is the events and like carbon emissions for an event is a tiny sliver of the pie chart. Like you need to start thinking more about the manufacturing process. How can we streamline that and make it more effective? How do we use 3D models to take us further down the chain so we're producing less and less samples that just get wasted? And then by the time we're actually producing physical samples, they're actually going to get put in the market. They're actually going to get used. Like that's the type of stuff that I think big brands can focus on. So designers can keep on kind of expressing and saying a message with the art and how they put on a show or the piece, but big brands need to focus more on like actually delivering on those messages in the behind the scenes part of their process.
Right. I'm going to kind of take us back in time a little bit with the Cosby Show, right? And how they were promoting the Black colleges. I remember just seeing the sweaters. I'm like, I don't know where I want to go, but I want to go to a historically Black college, even though they wasn't outright saying it, but it was just the sweatshirts and just putting it out there. And it's that sense of pride and wanting to actually further my education. And that was just by just watching and not realizing that I was actually being influenced about just, just that pride and just wanting to get educated because that's what they were promoting. And I just think about that and raising awareness as far as education and seeing kind of that it's deviated a little bit in terms of that, just because you don't really see it out there. But like cross colors, think about cross colors, right? And they were coming out with those different, it was just this whole movement. And now that I think back and reflect on it, how much fashion did shape what I wanted to align myself with. So I guess we could go. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to throw in one little point as well. I think now too, with everything being a lot more transparent because of social media, Twitter, etc., like with everything that happened after the pandemic and the riots and all the things, a lot of companies, like the one designer, Aurora James, she created the 15% pledge, and a lot of companies and a lot of even my friends were able to be selected at Nordstrom's and Bloomingdale's and have these opportunities to actually work with big corporations that signed up to be like, hey, we're going to make sure that we have a certain amount, which was 15% of women and people of color on our shelves and in our stores. I even was able to do an activation with Bloomingdale's earlier this year. They were a sponsor for my Metaverse show. I have friends selling at Nordstrom's and TJX. So I think with it being more transparent, the industry being more transparent is having the bigger companies be more accountable to the consumers. And even like if you go and shop on Nordstrom's now, certain brands, they'll say it's Black owned or women owned, so that you can see and know who you're supporting, and being able to make sure that it's being more equally distributed and fair to everyone and not just the same old people that they're designers or the same old that they're putting in the stores. So that's what I wanted to add to that question.
I definitely appreciate that trend, that transparency. And it's like telling the story. Now that's what's important, I see, with the consumers, as far as like, how did you get here? What was your purpose and what are you standing for? So that goes, let's go into what role do fashion designers play in shaping societal values? All right, Jamie.
I can take that one. I think that fashion designers hold a pretty hefty responsibility when it comes to changing societal values and norms, specifically with size discrimination. And again, gonna get a little vulnerable here, but I'm currently a size 16, and I could have all the money in the world, and I could not walk into any like ready-made high-end fashion store right now and purchase something because they simply don't sell my size. And there have been companies that have made billion-dollar industries off of just selling plus-size fashion, so the resources are there, and for some reason, big brands just don't seem to wanna take that leap into making a size-inclusive brand. And I think that you can even bring that home a little further because representation definitely matters for size. There have been a huge spike in depression and eating disorders among our youth because of this sense that only skinny people are sexy and only skinny people get to wear pretty high-end clothes. And so if you want to fit in these clothes, you've got to change everything about yourself to fit our norm as like, the brand saying like our norm, what we find beautiful. And I think that that's really damaging for the youth's mental health. And I think that fashion designers, myself included, really should take more responsibility in making this change. I mean, most of the time I can't even shop at Target, like let alone walk into somewhere like Versace or Dior, Prada, any of these places, and they're sending a message, and the message is clear, and I think that we as consumers and we as fellow designers should respond back to that message because I think it's very damaging.
Yes, I think we could definitely see when it comes to image, the BBLs, no matter how dangerous they say it is, being really shapely. And yeah, you do have full figure, but you have this very size 2, 3, 4, waist, cinched waist, and everything is just inflated in terms of your, breast augmentation. And it's definitely more pressure or an additional type of pressure if you're not really, really slim, fashion high end, then you have very shapely, it's there's pressure there too, as well. Because I see some of these outfits and my waist is not a size 2. I don't even think it's ever been a size 2 growing up, right? And so I definitely see the pressure there.
Yeah, I feel like designers also, especially like high-end designers, have a responsibility to take some risks, right? So like even that topic on body size and shape, it's like the industry has these ingrained cultural associations to how they do things and the status quo. And if you're a high-end designer, we talked about this earlier, like you have a platform, you have an audience of people that look up to you and care about the things that you do. And sometimes it'll flop and sometimes it'll be incredibly successful. But when you have that platform, I think you have a responsibility to push the boundaries a little bit and try new things. Kind of on a separate example of that, but like look at Air Jordans, right? Like the movie Air just came out, they really highlighted this and that. Is the idea that you couldn't even have colors on shoes in the NBA for a while. Like they were very muted, mostly just straight up white and black neutral colors. And they were like, let's take a risk with this shoe. Let's actually pay the fees to go ahead and put red all over it and make it flashy, make it exciting. And now basketball shoes are known for being flashy and exciting and taking on interesting architecture and like not looking like this basic Converse, right? And that wouldn't have happened if you didn't have an apparel brand take a risk and be able to handle those consequences and be able to stretch that boundary. Is it always going to work out? No. But I think if you're in that position of power in the industry, then you need to be taking some of those bets because you're going to be able to survive them. And a young company or a young designer is going to struggle a lot more to be in a position to take those type of risks.
Yeah, definitely agree with all of that. I am a personal stylist outside of doing the activations, and I have clients up to a 22. So I definitely understand about finding great items. And you're right, even when I would go and shop for them at the retail brands, especially after the pandemic, they were saying, hey, you have to shop for that online. We actually are not selling anything above a size 14 in the actual store. So if you needed it immediately, you were SOL because you had to wait for it to be ordered and sent to your home. What I found though was shopping with independent. I love to shop with women-owned brands anyway, and especially women of color, and finding independent brands that were catering to size inclusive and buying my clients' clothes from them instead of focusing on buying from the big retailers. But in the same breath, if you do want high end, you could only buy accessories because they're not going to make it in your size, unless, of course, you're a celebrity and you go to the house directly and they custom make something for you. So definitely feel like fashion has to, at least big retailers and designers have to step up as far as being inclusive, which is why Savage Fenty and Lizzo and some of those different brands have been so successful, because they are being size inclusive, especially Savage Fenty. Even though she's making more lingerie, she stepped into the sportswear side as well, because the average woman in America is a size 16. So it's kind of like a no brainer of why would you not be more inclusive when the size in America is that size. Now, again, high end brands, most of them are not based in America, so that might be part of it as well. But just thinking about where you want to shop and spend your money and who you want to support. And so, in support of the clients that I do service, I'm making sure that I'm supporting women down, plus size and curvy size designers to make sure they have items that they can wear and feel confident and feel good in, and not feel like, oh, I can't dress a certain way because I'm not a size 2.
Bring up a point, even when it comes to Venti and just seeing the difference between what where everyone's kind of shifting towards, because remember, we have Victoria's Secret, you had the top models, you had Yasmin with very, very long legs, and you had Tyra Banks, and we could just kind of go on the whole Angel campaign. And when you go onto Rihanna's website, I mean, they have all shapes, all sizes, and it's very inclusive. You don't feel as intimidated. And it's nice to see the same lingerie on different size women. And even with the men, and it's gender neutral. So it's like she's really captured the audience, and you could see where it's gotten Victoria's Secret as opposed to her brand. So we are speaking up when it comes to that through our dollars, right? So let's look at digital. Let's make that transition to digital technology, how it's influenced fashionability on social change. Now we have these avatars, and hey, you get to dress them up and dress them cute. You get to even pay for them to have this certain outfit. Anyone want to add to that?
I can jump in. So there's kind of two ways I think digital has made a huge impact. The first is it's just throwing gas on the fire, right? Like the last 20 years of digital, it really hasn't been that different from print. If you think about like a brochure or a magazine or like a postcard, that's basically what the internet's been for the last 20 years. The only difference is that it's accessible to a wider audience because anyone can go to your website and access that brochure, or it's highly targeted with a social media ad where that postcard's not just getting sent to addresses. There's more data, there's more tracking. But as far as the engagement, the look and feel of it hasn't really changed that much. So I think that's the last phase we've seen of digital kind of making an impact. But the next phase is where it starts to get really exciting, because now we're living on these digital channels, and gaming has become a social environment. People are looking at each other's PFPs on social media, and more than they are their actual faces in person. Like, you have maybe 5% of your network that you hang out with in person more than you do online. And then there's so many other people, the majority of them, that are just seeing your digital presence. So now there's this opportunity with advancements in Unreal and Unity and the ability to create these digital assets to have a whole new way of engaging with your customer. Like now they have a new environment to where you don't have human physics anymore limiting your capabilities. You can make any shade of any color. You could dress up as a dragon if you want to. There's no weight limits if you want to carry a sword and a shield around. Like there's so many creative things that a lot of it's going to look terrible. Like a lot of it's not going to be great, but we're in such a fun time to be experimenting with that new medium. And I think that that's still fashion, whether it's on an avatar or an AR filter or whatever you choose to do. But it's just this whole new opportunity for brands to start experimenting.
I just wanted to piggyback off of that a little bit. In the fashion reporting space, Vogue.com is putting out at minimum 10 articles a day from freelance writers. The digital era is really opening the door for a lot more creatives to join the space. And it's really opening the door for people to purchase fashion from anywhere. You could hop online and buy a dress from around the world. So your geographic location is no longer a, a prohibitor or a limiter. And I also think of, the movie The Devil Wears Prada, and in that movie, these fashion shows, they were very coveted invitations. They were secrets. Like you don't want anyone to see next month's or next year's launch because like they'll see it when they see it, but VIPs get like early access. And now with technology and social media, you get to see all of Fashion Week from your phone and you don't have to feel left out. I'm really loving the inclusion of these major fashion events. And I mean, even Savage Fenty, she broadcasts her fashion show on Amazon Prime, so everyone can see it. And I am loving how more people can be involved, more people can add their opinions. And so it's really becoming a place of free speech and being able to just keep diversifying and keep adding and keep changing the world around us.
I can say that I appreciate influencers. And I said what has changed for me since COVID is I was a person who felt like I had to touch it, right? I want to see what it looks like. I want to try it on, even though I hated shopping, but I wanted to try it on. And I see these influencers and they're creating this lifestyle. And, I could care less what they're saying. I'm like, where did you get that? And now seeing that they're posting it. This is where you can get it. I even Amazon's getting in on it. They're having their own fashion boutiques through Amazon, and just seeing how that much is shifting. And then we're seeing the brick and mortars just closing down. And I'm hoping it doesn't completely go, online, because I do want to walk down the street, get it, and go, right? But I also become very much so a homebody and has appreciated being able to get deliveries. And also like, hey, you know what? I want that and I can get it. So I do appreciate, and hats off to a lot of these influencers. At first I give them the side eye like, but I've completely bought in.
Well, that's the other cool thing of like digital is like this idea of I love what Jamie was saying about accessibility, the fact that it's so much more open for people to participate now. And part of what I think really enables that is like digital communities. Like there's Reddit threads, there's forums, there's all these opportunities to go find other like-minded people. Like it's a music example, but Brockhampton started out of like a Kanye West fan chat. Like it was just a bunch of musicians that met online that all liked the same type of music. And then they became one of the most successful music groups for the last few years, right? And so that idea of accessibility, I think, is super, super powerful.
So, trying to go into a little bit of the politics part of it. So how do you intersect that fashion with politics and activism? And it goes back to the statement t-shirts. Remember Rock the Vote? They had that shirt that says the big check mark, get out and vote, making a political statement in that campaign, the importance of us voting. I also even look at with Issa, right? She always had those sweatshirts, very simple, but it had a very loud message. Those types of things. Anyone want to take on the political part of it or activism?
I mean, I think everyone probably thinks of those interesting red hats that were floating around when I think of fashion and politics and where that intersects. I think that it's definitely been used as an identifier, and both in the positives and in the negatives. We are using fashion now more than ever to voice our opinions. Do we want to show off our likes, our dislikes, our passions, our dreams, all of those things? And I also think that by doing that, that is directly related to technology and the spike in cancel culture. It was like one bad like or one bad comment by a brand or an influencer, and it's like it all goes up in flames. Or it takes one journalist to just ask the right question and a brand can go up in flames. And we've seen that very recently with Shein and the way that they had their influencers travel to China and they wanted to do this big PR video and try to make it seem like Shein was doing the right thing. And, everyone just got these videos back from around the world that were just painted in such like a beautiful light. But then people went undercover and went back to these factories and it was like, it's really not like that. And I think that like that is a really important part of activism is knowing where your clothes are coming from, knowing who you're representing, and even taking a bit of like a deeper dive and seeing like these brands that you love to support, what is their social presence like? Who are they following? Who are they liking? Who are they supporting? Because by supporting them, you are inadvertently supporting the people that they support. And that can be both a positive and a negative. But I'm really loving the way that we're using fashion to express ourselves. It's very much giving like 1700s, like French like monarchy where they used to dress exactly like the people that they loved and they were putting like the boats in their hair and just being like very expressive, and that's where I see us with fashion right now. It's very enjoyable.
I still can't do the Smurf shoes. I don't know. Was
My
anyone
roommate-
tempted to buy those?
My roommate got a pair. Are you talking about the big red Misfits
Yes.
shoes? Yeah, he just flipped them. He didn't keep them, but I've got this great photo of it on his head like a hat.
So how long did it take for him to get into the shoes?
I don't even know if he actually tried them on because he was trying to sell them, so I don't think he wanted to accidentally scuff them up or anything. But that's actually another area of digital that's funny is like resale culture, like the ability to access and tap into this whole resale secondary market is like a whole new stream for fashion. Like Supreme was entirely built on the secondary market, right? And now we're starting to see brands be able to tap into that on their own a little bit. And the resale market, like double, triple X is the value of some of these. But Misfits, I actually think is a great example. I'm glad you brought up those shoes because when you think about politics or making a statement, what an amazing brand to follow. I don't know if the listeners are super big in this. If they follow fashion, they probably are. But that idea of just doing ridiculous things for the sake of doing something totally different and drawing attention to that idea or that concept, so cool. Like that's a rabbit hole in itself that everybody should spend a couple hours diving into.
We are kind of wrapping it up, but I do want to give everyone a chance to what they want to promote out there, whatever message you want to send, what you're seeing trending, any advice. This is your time. All right. I feel like I have to call like a class. Like, who do I call on? Who's excited? Drum roll. Jamie.
I'll go.
Ricky.
I was gonna say I'll go first because whoever goes last will be more memorable. I'd rather give the final word to the folks that are actually deeper in the fashion space. So super short. I'll follow me on LinkedIn, Ricky Hauk. Check out the Metaverse podcast. New episode just came out this morning. All talking about this sort of stuff, but I'll keep it super short. Give it over to these amazing ladies that are way more into fashion and better for y'all to follow.
You're holding your own, Ricky. You're holding your own.
I guess I'll
Representing
go.
the odds
I was
and
going to
then
say,
out there,
Jamie,
right?
did you want to go next, or?
I can. You can be the memorable one. You can go last.
No, that wasn't it. I was just like, did you want to go, or should I go ahead and go since I unmuted my mic? I didn't know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, so please follow us on Instagram at Pink October Co. We are launching our blog soon. Peachy Bottoms will be launching soon. Again, we are still trying to figure out the mechanical aspects of ordering clothes, but hopefully we will be launching very soon. And thank you guys for allowing me the chance to share the stage with you. I've had a lot of fun.
Ditto. I would say the same thing. I'm definitely going to follow you, all three of you, after this is over. I've enjoyed having this panel discussion with y'all. I think what I want to just leave everyone with is that whether you're in the fashion industry or not, style and personal style is a self-expression of how you want to show up in the world, how you feel about yourself, how other people react to you as a personal stylist, which is where I started as in the fashion industry and been able to use that to pivot into so many different areas. But it was all about, dressing well and making yourself feel good, as well as making sure people react to how you showed up, whether that be in the big red shoes or wearing something that just speaks to who you are as a person and your personality, etc. So just being intentional, using style as a self-expression is what I would say. And then what I do love about what we're doing in tech and fashion is, for me, marrying the technology with the human touch. So I do these metaverse shows, but we do them in person. So you come in and you get to see it through 3D using the VR headsets. And after you take the headset off, everything you saw in the headset is now available in the next room to purchase. So that way we're supporting the designers right there immediately. You can get that instant gratification, but you're also getting an experience through the activation beyond just a pop-up sip and shop or a traditional runway show. So being able to use that and partner with corporations and big brands to expose their clientele to technology in a relatable way, because not everybody's into the gaming or even have used the VR headset or in the metaverse, but being able to do it in a way that just makes sense, as well as makes sense for the business from a business perspective, as well as a creative angle. So that's what it's about for me.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all again. I really appreciate it.
I just want to leave with this. What I love about fashion is that you're making a statement without making a statement, right? So I want to thank you, Vanya, Jamie, Ricky, the GatherVerse team, and also the audience for joining our conversation. And may our gather be well. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you guys are having a fun time at the GatherVerse FATHOM Summit Day 1. And on this panel today, we're going to be talking about the Metaverse and the AI's role in music. So, without further ado, I'm just going to give everyone 30 seconds to quickly introduce yourselves. And we'll start with Christopher to my right, who is the founder of GatherVerse. So, Christopher, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Christopher Lafayette, founder of GatherVerse, servant leader. Happy to be here with these brilliant minds today, where we lean in and talk about some incredible things that are happening in the world of music and AI. That's it. That's what I got.
Over to you, Anna.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much to Christopher for having me and for Russell to present, and obviously for Adrian, who I'm excited to chat with today. Yeah, I work in the music industry, passionate about music and its possibility, the possibility of music changing everything, as I think it always has, and I think it always will. So.
And over to you, Adrian.
Peace, everybody. Adrian Rashad Driscoll, co-founder of Collimation. Happy to be here. Excited about extending the artistic spectrum, whatever that may look like for now and in the future. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell. I am the Director of Arts for GatherVerse and also the CEO and President of Madbob, which is a women-focused NFT music platform. And we're using Web3 technology to change things for women inside the music industry, such as like the royalty side and making all different revenue from NFTs, Metaverse, all that kind of sort of stuff. So, all right, let's get into discussion, shall we? This is a very interesting topic today, so I'm very excited to talk about this. So, I'm going to start with Anna. Not to pick on you, Anna, but we'll start with you, Anna. How has AI changed the process of music creation and production?
It's a good question, and thank you for picking on me, Russell. I appreciate it. So I think it has changed the amount of people involved in music production. So we've seen a huge change in stats now, looking at 66% of musicians using AI to make their music. So that is like a huge percentage. Obviously making it maybe easier to press that button and get results, right? So the positive in my view is immediately there is that more people are making music. So I see that as a really helpful tool to make music more accessible and to make an end product more accessible to more people. The more people that are, creating tracks and creating music, the better. So yeah, an increase in the amount of musicians out there making tracks is probably what I think is the main change so far.
I was going to say as well, because I think Grime was also one of the first artists to actually do AI with music, and she incorporated it, allowed people to use basically her voice in different songs and various songs. So I'm pretty sure she was one of the first people to actually integrate the AI voice, as far as I know. So it's very interesting to see that. So we'll go over to you, Christopher. What is your thoughts on the AI changing the music creation and process? Because I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, and we've had discussions over the phone as well. So let's hit it out of the park.
Sure. And, Adrian and I have had, several discussions in previous summits before on this very subject before. And, as I think about the succession of the adoption of technology when it comes to the arts, this was something that was bound to happen at some point anyway. We've gone from reel to reel to CD, reel to reel to cassette to CD and A track. We're talking about what does the flow of the music industry in its entirety look like in one particular vertical versus the transition to an age. You know, we've gone from the farming age to the industrial age, from the industrial age to the technology age, and now we're heading firm into the artificial intelligence age. And I think what tends to happen is that we get so rooted, firm, and fixed in our industry of process, because that's part of the question. We think about process, and this is how it's operating, and as it would be or should be. But the reality is that there's still a volatility in the way of work. You know, the way of work is changing, and you know, we must know that not all of this will stay the same. But that's not what we were told growing up. You know, we were more firm to fix in getting school education and then getting a career, and that was it. But the reality is that the very notion of career itself is being challenged. What is a career in the face of these emerging technologies, these tools of innovation? What does that even translate and look like today? And so the reality is that our arts are under fire. My hope is that we're going to a place of growth as opposed to a place of attrition. And we have to realize that the day of the 90s, where artists will drop an album and platinum plaques were on the walls decorated through and throughout, those days are done.
There's been some sorry just to jump in, but there's some interesting stats recently. There was actually a news article that come out recently about how people are creating AI music and uploading them to streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, etc. And the record labels are trying to fight back against that by controlling these platforms and trying to stop them, but it's just not working. Like the amount of content that's going to be uploaded and stuff, they won't be able to stop it, or they won't be able to be able to process that amount and to stop everything being uploaded. So, Adrian, from your point of view, I'm assuming you're a producer, right? And you do production side too, or part of it. Okay, well, let's go a bit the more production side. From a producer point of view, how do you see that correlating for yourself from like a producer's point of view? Like, do you see your career, being stopped and up for grabs or stopping that, or do you think AI is actually enhancing you and allowing you to build more?
I mean, I think this is one of the biggest questions that's everywhere, right? I think there's a lot of fear, and that's all anybody sees right now is kind of the, hey, this is scary, and as an artist, as a producer, these are tools, just like anything else has always been a tool. You can use it for something positive or you can use it for something negative, but the technology isn't inherently one way or the other. It's really the way that people are using it. And to your point of, simulating artist's voice and what the record labels are trying to do, I think the big thing is we need to figure out a policing system, something that scans it, kind of like if I post my own song or post some songs to Instagram, it's going to say, no, you can't do that. The same kind of system can be set into place and kind of police it. But it's a very, very useful and powerful tool, in my opinion.
I actually have a friend of mine who's actually building that sort of similar tool that you're saying about. So I'll introduce you to him and you can have a chat with him. But yeah, let's talk about I want to kind of go a bit more deep on that, Adrian, actually, because I want to talk about, can AI create original, like, emotion and be able to resonate with that music, or is it just like just a tool only and that's it? Like how you say it?
AI is only a tool. AI is not sentient. A lot of people try to make it seem like it is. It's rapidly growing, but it's only a tool. Now there are a lot of prompts, and I think that's another big reason. You have the two strikes going simultaneously. There's a lot of prompts that can be fed by very thought-provoking and emotion-provoking music that can, feed into AI, and AI can try to replicate it. But AI can't create anything as far as emotion invoking, because it's only going based off of language learning models and prompts. It's only a tool, at least for now.
Just to jump in on that, I totally agree with you, Adrian. I was thinking about it the other day when I was reading about the origin of the song Wild Horses by Rolling Stones. And I was just thinking it's really similar to AI, right? Because the story is that Keith Richards had his first kid, and he said wild horses couldn't drag him away from his child to go on tour, right? So Jagger used that emotion of the love that he had for his kid to convey another emotion, which was the breakup in the song, right? And it's like using we can use this tool to find emotions, to learn about other people's emotions, and then use that tool and connect with it essentially. um Not to break it off as something like that's completely inanimate, right? Okay, I don't want to go too Shinto on it, but there's a level of life and of an essence to it that we can tap into, and the human emotion that's there, and use it in that sense as a tool. It could be a positive way to look at it as well.
Over to you, Christopher. I know you want to jump on this, so go ahead.
Sure. I think about a tool. The reality is that when we think about all these emerging technologies that abide within the ecohabitat itself, when I think about all these tools, as Adrian appropriately expressed, generative pre-trained transformers, large language foundational models, we think about all the things that we use when it comes to HMDs, when it comes to all these different tools. Let's lean in on that a little further, because the reality is as advanced as these tools are that we use today, we will one day look back at these things that we find so profound with the relevancy of a hammer, of a drill. They're tools, but they're different apart. And what we've really done on the scientific level, because we have to realize that that artificial intelligence, spatial computing, these aren't products. These are applied sciences. And what we've done is we've gone into science itself, we've extracted it from its abstract state and made these tools, which shows that it's been made in concrete form from these sciences. And we take these tools to go back into discovery of what science is. And that's what leads us into physics and so forth and so on. And so in some capacity, these things that we're entangled with, these things that we use are very rudimentary. They're very much still in their infancy, these tools that we're using. And so when we think about music as we know it today, might we say the self-same thing when it comes to how we've enjoyed music all of our lives, and that we're actually afforded the opportunity to go further by way of these tools to expand on music that we've never even fathomed or even conceived of ever. And it's exciting to understand that we're heading into such unknown territory when it comes to unlocking and understanding the native intimacy of music itself. It makes me feel as if I don't even know what music is.
That's a really interesting topic to go into, because I was actually reading a BBC article, right? And obviously it needs to be humanity first, right? 100%. And I was reading an article about a DJ and saying, they were asking in the BBC News article, going, well, aren't you worried about AI like taking your position as a DJ? And she was like, no. And then they was like, why? And she goes, because they will never have that human connection that the human would compared to AI. And I was like, that's actually true. She goes, when someone is dancing on the dance floor and they see the DJ behind the DJ booth, sweating away, dancing away, having a great time, that connection right there cannot be replicated.
Right.
And that is like the bit that could never be tampered with or changed or anything. So that kind of leads me on to my next question, which is, well, we did briefly talk about how AI can't have the emotional resonation with music, etc. But can AI become so smart, though, that they become human-like in the future, that they do end up looking like humans? They do end up being like humans, etc. Is that a possibility?
It's very much a possibility. It's been the intentions of technical evolution since the earliest mentionings of what we think about when it comes to deployed AI. You know, we think about artificial general intelligence, AGI, and we think about super intelligence, you know, which we haven't reached. I do believe that we've reached AGI. I do believe that the corporations will not express publicly that we have touched on AGI. The
Okay,
evidence
sorry,
supports it.
Christopher.
There's a great debate that's happening.
And he's gone. Yeah, so Anna, I'm just going to quickly fire over to you. What's your thoughts on this particular topic? Like, do you think that the AI can perform like a human, that they can have that connection the same as a human to human?
Okay, so my thoughts on this are that it's the idea in itself is kind of humbling, and it's exciting in a way, because I've always wondered about what our position on Earth is, right? Like who we are, and you know, why we're here, and all of that kind of thing. And from a philosophical perspective, you know, you meditate, you do what you do to try and figure things out, or you connect with people. But like, I've always just thought, well, we've evolved from other animals. We share so much DNA with other animals. Like, why are we that so much better? And all right, it might be possible. I don't know how, because I don't understand the tech at that level. Okay. But I guess in my view, it could be just another form of evolution. So it's the next step in evolution. And in my mind, what we should be more focusing on is how to make that transition, if it does happen, which I think it's pretty likely, as seamless as possible. And yeah, to feed the right kind of empathy and compassion into this future, because you know, the Earth, the cosmos will continue without us. Who are we to ever decide how things will go? Like, I just, it's unfathomable to me. But yeah.
Go ahead, Christopher. Jump back in. You're back again.
No, you're good. I think one of us has to get some Starlink up in this cat. But no, I think Anna was definitely on point in saying it. I'll say this, that when I start thinking about the intentions of artificial intelligence, where we're at with AGI, yes, it will start to replicate human expression. No, it will not be able to take it to the level of what we've known intimately, because we cannot create sensory output. It cannot duplicate human senses. That is the ultimate great divider when it comes to the dichotomy between human. Listen, let's make sure we're clear, audience, for all the many of you that are on GatherVerse.live right now. I want to make sure that this is clear. When we talk about extended reality, we're not only talking about hyper-realistic, immersive simulated environments or virtual augmented reality. Artificial intelligence comes from human intelligentsia. Therefore, it is an extended reality also. These extended realities can only go so far. And this is why we have GatherVerse, is because humanity first, for whom we have been building these tools in the first place to make this reality and this existence better, and to be able to serve humanity and never the other way around. And so this is why we bring up awareness when we talk about our musicians, because we have to think about, are we about to disrupt our own selves from our lust of disruption itself? When it comes to music and the assault of creativity and arts, for us to be able to go on assault when it comes to arts, it's for us to be able to shoot our own selves in the foot.
Well said, Christopher. Oh my God. Yeah, well said.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Which kind of leads me on to my next question. which is obviously we haven't covered the topic yet, which is the metaverse. So, how is the metaverse reshaping the music industry? Adrian, I'm going to hand this one over to you.
Sure. Thank you. So right now what the metaverse is doing is very similar to what streaming did, what YouTube did, what a lot of these technologies did. It's providing a lot more access. If you look at the way that typically you'd have to go and sell CDs out of your trunk, and I'm dating myself, or not CDs even. I mean, this is cassettes, this is 8 tracks, that was how you got known. Right. And then, someone would send a letter and then, it would kind of progress from there. Now you can literally make a song, on your computer at home. You could do everything. You could do all the vocals, all the instruments from something as simple as GarageBand, right? And you can put a track out there. You make a music video. You can do all these things. That's creating access. Now, that same access this new access lets me have a concert, which is kind of what Collimation does, in a large sense, have a concert with people who couldn't typically get a ticket, right? So my $2,500 ticket for a VIP red carpet is now $10, so it's creating access and making it so that your audiences can become so diverse in a way that was never possible before. And that's one of the most prevalent and interesting parts of the metaverse when you compare it or you include it in the music space, in my opinion.
That's a really interesting perspective. And I'm just going to jump on this too. I think it has a really good social impact too, right? And allowing people to gather together that could never gather before, that be able to socialize with each other, be able to interact with each other. Not only that, but also creating new experiences from an events point of view, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that you can have a massive show, you can have your virtual stream inside the metaverse, and you can still be your character as if you was there, but you're not, obviously, but you're virtually there kind of thing, and still be able to have as close to that real life experience as possible. I think that's a huge game changer in the metaverse. And I want to bring this over to Anna. So Anna, what is your perspective on the metaverse? Because me and Adrian have gave our perspectives and together. So what is your opinion on maybe everything that we said, or maybe you have a complete different perspective than what we have?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you guys. I also think it's, poignant to add that it could be, again, it is a tool. It's still a tool. And it is one that could be massively beneficial to artists, especially if you think about young artists in particular, maybe having, confidence issues, they can use their avatar to develop their skills as well. And then I still think that live will be extremely important, like full live, and it should be. And even going to events for me, and actually just like we were talking about the sensory aspect of it already, is just so important. But these can be combined together to make something really powerful. So you give the artist that capacity to express themselves in the metaverse as well. It's a really nice opportunity. I think that's something we've seen in gaming as well already throughout the years, right? People developing communities in the gaming space, and then they go and they meet their friends from the gaming community, and they feel stronger together. So I think, again, it's going to be something that will impact live better. It'll help people with that sense of community and potentially with mental health as well. So I'm just looking at all of that kind of side of thing, and I think it's going to be really positive.
I think the monetization side as well is going to be astronomical for creators too. And new ways in making streaming revenue, new ways in making ticketing revenue, and new ways in making merchandise revenue, which is like the biggest, income that most artists have when they're going on tour. Like that's where they make all that money. Right. So I think this is going to be a huge game changer for them as well, and allowing them to be able to make a living from creating, their content and their music. Right. So, and Christopher, I want to bring this back to you because I know you have a lot of opinions on the metaverse and for creators. Just give us your perspective on what you think on how it's going to change things for the creators. Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? What's your personal opinion?
I'll fall right in line with what Adrian and Anna just expressed, which is so apropos. Accessibility and education, that's at the top of the list. I mean, that is at the prime top of the list for the use case of the metaverse today, as we know it. This colloquial metaverse, it's spatial computing, extended reality, immersive intelligence. The reason that that's so important for what they just expressed is, one, you're giving greater access to an art form that many people, and we're talking millions, still cannot access, and largely due to a lack of supply and available broadband. Right? You know, that's a big issue. So I'd like to say, what does the metaverse look like when we have 5G? You know, and I go to certain places, and you know, even in Europe, you know, that's lacking, and our European communities, let alone Africa, Middle East, and subsequent Asia. You know, and even places here within North America as well. The other part of it is going to, so that's on the accessibility side. What happens when you give communities that have never had access? What happens when we have the opportunity to unlock their culture? That feels right over hand in hand with what Anna just talked about. Unlocking within, I know Dr. Tom Furness of Virtual World Society often talks about brilliantly when we talk about our youth. It's the capability to unlock in their minds expression. You know, we talk about music and we know what it sounds like, but what does music look like?
Right.
Like, do I know? Can we say that the videos that we've seen growing up, and MTV, The Box, and VH1, can we say that maybe those were good for the time then present, but really a poor representation of the artist's intentions? To be able to go deep into the confines of the chambers of the human heart, and to be able to withdraw and extract that in a pictorial illustration or a canvas of not just what music sounds like, but what it feels like, and to visualize that, to give tools that have never existed, to give the artist the capability to not only hear what they feel, because that's what we're listening to when we hear music. We are intangibly feeling other people's emotions.
Right.
So what does that look like when now they have given tools to express visually those emotions as well? That is what I'm so interested in when it comes to the metaverse. So, but I can't enjoy any of that if I don't have accessibility, and I cannot untap that potential without a proper platform of education therein. So they, as far as I'm concerned, Russell, hit it. And then, Russell, once we have greater accessibility and wider education, then we'll naturally go into buy, sell, and trade ecosystems and dealing with fiat and crypto assets and different forms of currencies and using the blockchain more readily available in terms of monetization. Then that's when we succeed. Simon Sinek, people don't buy products and services, they buy culture.
Right. Right.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, like, it leads me on to my next question, which is, you know, how can AI be leveraged to make music more accessible? How can AI be used to make the metaverse more accessible as well, too? Can AI help with that side as well?
Can I ask a reverse question? Can I ask a reverse question in that? It's complimentary, Russell.
Sure.
Because I really want to know: is this a good thing, Anna, Adrian, and Russell? When we talk about, we just heard the statistics. Artificial music. You mean I have the capability of listening to a Radiohead album that's never been played before, and it's been specially curated for me and listened to for the very first time, and I cannot tell the difference between Tom York and this AI that's in my ear? Are we all saying that this is no wrong or right answer? But I really want to honestly hear, because I value those that are with me today that are firmly in music. Is this a good thing?
So
Give me be candid, Adrian.
I will. I will.
I'll let Adrian go. You go first. I'll go after you.
Okay, so AI music can be a good thing, right? The issue is, well, it's a two-headed thing. But let's start with the artist, right? Where most artists see AI in a lot of emerging technologies is from the fear side, right? And this is the truth about artists and most people. Most people spend more energy trying to stay out of hell than they do trying to get into heaven. Right? So it's like, they're like, no, let's keep AI out, keep AI out, keep AI out, instead of using it for the potential and the tool and how profound it can make your art, right? It can make your art that much better. But most people are afraid that it's going to, take jobs or decrease royalties, or and it has that ability too, if in the wrong hands, because this is a tool. A hammer can fix or a hammer can destroy, right? That's the same thing with AI. So it's not going to get good until we get the artists on board. And that goes right back to what Christopher Lafayette just said. We need education, because until I understand something, every disease that they found a cure for, it started with them understanding it. They had to go deep and say, okay, this is what this is made of. This is how we can cure it. So to cure the problem of the artist issues with AI, artists have to be educated first. And that's where everything starts. And very few people are making the effort to get that education, with the exception of GatherVerse.
Yeah, I agree. And just to kind of add on to what you said, Adrian, so everyone knows about the new Barbie film out, right? With the I don't know if you've seen the Barbie film, but I mean, I haven't yet. But anyways, everyone thought that Johnny Cash sung Aqua Barbie Girl, and that was done by AI. And fans were completely confused about. They thought Johnny Cash sung Barbie Girl. He didn't at all, and fans were absolutely confused. So this leads me on to what just Adrian just said. He's right. It can be used for good, but it can also be used for evil as well. And I remember myself and you, Christopher, when we had a discussion a little while ago, we're saying that because artificial intelligence has been let out of the bag now, right? As it's continuing to evolve, it's continuing to keep taking pace. There's no way to stop it now. So you basically do fire with fire. Basically, you have to come up with an artificial intelligence to fight artificial intelligence. So bad artificial intelligence has to be fired with good artificial intelligence. That's the only way that you can combat against it. You can't stop it. You can't put some magical wand around it and make it disappear. I'm afraid it's here to stay. So you either use it for good, like Adrian said, or use it for bad. Choice is yours. I'm going to hand over to Anna now.
Yeah, interesting points. For me, maybe just like some words don't feel like necessarily great in terms of this, like combat and fighting. I don't think that if we use those words, it's helpful, because I see it more as a yin and yang situation, right? With artificial intelligence and us. We're working in harmony together. Like we're part of a collective. It's something that's been developed by us. It's part of us, essentially. And it's not this distant kind of entity. It's part of us. And we should be looking to align ourselves with it. We might not always agree on everything, but I think it's almost like parenting, right? If you feed the child with good morals and things and ethics, then hopefully it'll work out. But when it's a teenager, it's gonna be a pain.
Right.
So yeah, I think we got to use it. And if there's one message I would like to get out there, is that people who, I mean, I've spoken to people who have great hearts and great morals and everything, and they're afraid of it. And I want them to know that fear is not the answer with this, right?
Right.
It's not going to be the solution. We've got to use our hearts, put what we know, what is right and true into it, so that we can improve things. That has to be the way.
Can I kind of piggyback on something that both Anna and Adrian expressed, because I think they're very powerful points, because there's a bit of a dichotomy here, and Anna, the eternal optimist that I've come to appreciate, she says, hey, it's yin and yang, but not everyone unfortunately thinks like that. And this is the thing that I think we really have to lean in on, is that our process for reconciliation and understanding on a colloquial front, established use, there's a process that we tend to go in, but we don't have that so readily available. And the reality is that the cadence and the tempo in the accelerated fashion in which AI has been so pervasive, that's not slowing down either. Right? As Russell said, it's not stopping, it's not slowing down. And so it's not waiting for us to be able to delegate conversations between us to figure out what we're going to do. This thing is a ravenous machine and monster, and it is having its way. But at the same time, it could be a friendly lily, a lilac in the lilac field, because Adrian brought up to me a great point. He talked about that hammer. The hammer could be used for good, or a hammer could be used for devastation, for destroying, for tearing down, because it's a tool. And so it seems to me, on a more intimate level, when we approach music, and Adrian also said we need our artists.
Right.
We need them involved, because we can't have technology. Think about this for a second. What are we saying here? Are we putting technologists in charge of art? Are we putting the disruptors and the innovators? Because they're the ones that ultimately own this IP and own the capability for tuning and for distribution, and they certainly had the financial wherewithal. Are we about to say that all the artists that we know of that usually has the power and a little bit, Anna, of the autonomy that musicians have today, are they about to lose that in the great contestation to technology itself? That's a very big deal. And that's something we've never seen before. But I can see Mark Zuckerberg owning the majority of the IP of music. And I'll say this and I'll be done with it. Bruce Springsteen, my favorite musician, not afraid to say it. Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen just sold his catalog for $500 million to Sony. $500 million to Sony.
Wow.
How many decades did it take for Bruce Springsteen to sell his catalog to be able to get that type of leverage? How many concerts, how much merch, how much has been invested, CDs, vinyl, all that has gone towards a $500 million acquisition. But with the way that we see big tech goes, first of all, what's $500 million to big tech? But moreover, when you start thinking about that, and I could duplicate that whole catalog and create a whole completely mirrored approach towards his whole entire catalog of music by using AI, and I can duplicate that and it sounds good algorithmically because we know what's palatable, that's a really big traumatic thing that we're looking at. And guess what? Larry, Sergey, Satya Nadella, Bill Gates, Sundar Pichai, Mark Zuckerberg, they own that. They own all of that. And we like it and we enjoy it so much because music is so hard to deny.
I mean, so I just want to jump in on this as well, because there was this virtual pop group called Mave, and it's just like a random Korean all women music group, and they basically, there's 4 of them in total in this song, or in the songs. They uploaded an entire album onto Spotify, and they had over 20 million streams from their album. Now think about that. That's crazy.
Are they AI?
And they're all AI. Yep. An entire all women music Korean group had over 20 million streams. That's the equivalent to almost Taylor Swift.
But if it
And Taylor Swift
resonates
is
with
massive.
people, I don't see the problem. If it resonates and it opens the heart, who cares?
Because and I'll jump in on this. The reason why that is a problem is because the royalties should be going to the genuine creators who are actually creating the music, not the tech companies who have made this random Korean group using AI, artificial intelligence, to take all that royalties that should have went to actual proper creators.
So
My personal opinion.
this is the question with AI as well, is like where the royalties stand, right? We always thought that is the question. Some people would argue that it's the person who presses the button. They're the person who should get the royalties. It's gonna be you know, as I work with music royalties, it's a very interesting discussion for me.
Yeah.
I do wonder about the whole industry, right? Because artists weren't really making any money until the 1960s, you know. So this is a very, very fresh industry as well. And so we just have to look at what it means. And, you know, there are going to be a lot more musicians, a lot more people making music because of this as well. And I guess the other thing is, you know, in terms of copyright infringement and everything, like this is becoming huge. This is becoming crazy. It's going to get to the point where it won't be possible to defend it anymore. So that's an interesting aspect to look at it as well. I'd love to hear your views on that as well. I mean, I've talked a bit about it with Christopher and Russ, but I'd love to know what you think about that, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really goes down to where is the genesis of this music. You know, if you're copying some artist and using their voice and their likeness, then, you know, they should receive royalties or have the ability to shut it down, right? If an artist maybe doesn't have a great voice and, you know, they're using AI to make them sound better, you know, to find the different sounds. Look, I have no problem with that, you know, because there's auto-tune and there's a million other techniques that artists already do to do that, you know? So like, I can't fault an artist, an AI artist, you know, and in fact, I almost welcome it as long as it's not taking from another artist, you know, their IP or their likeness or what they've done, you know. But too many companies, nobody, and I told Christopher this many times, nobody cares about the technology. Technology is invisible, you know. Us nerds may, but like for the most people don't care about the technology, they care about what they're going to get from it. And too many companies are saying, hey, here's my tech. And they're making nonsense tech demos that no one cares about. So if they are doing something artistic in any sense that's going to bring more people to this tech or bring this tech to more people, I'm all for it, as long as it's done in an ethical way that credits who deserves the credit.
Can I piggyback on that too? Just as a train of thought and incredible points made. I would say this too. This to me, this ultimately goes back because Annie, you're right. I mean, if the music's good, we're going to listen to it. At the end of the day, who cares about where it comes from? Even right? Yes, we should care about the genesis, especially if it's copying someone else's IP, their voice, because those are the standards, ethical standards that we have set up when it comes to music. So two things real quick. One, universal basic income is real because I believe that we need to be good shepherds to our musicians. If this is the way that we're going with the majority of the music that will come out near future is AI, then you know what? This is where humanity really takes a part in this and say, hey, you know what, musicians, we understand this is what you've gone for your whole entire career. We've offered art programs in school. You went the way that you were guided, and you were told that you can get a career in this space. But guess what? Innovation has happened. We need to do our level best to take care of our musicians towards transition into something different where they can live. If that's what it's going to be, the universal basic income, and I take exception to those that think it's just welfare. It's not. It speaks to your ignorance. Know what it is before you start to discern what universal basic income is.
Correct.
When we talk about UBI, a lot of people are going to need to be dependent on it. If we're talking about developers may be irrelevant within 5 years, 60 months, which could be the real reality, then we need to say, hey, we made a deal. We had an invisible deal. We need to take care of those who have gone and helped innovate and build these things in the first place that have brought joy to us in some capacity. Because what does that say about us if we're sitting here saying, oh, we don't need you anymore, you're done? And that's, you know what that leads to? that doesn't lead to just people saying, accepting, okay, this is fine. That leads to civil unrest.
Right.
When you take people and discard them like rubbish on the corner, that leads to civil unrest. And we cannot operate that like that. And to think that we're going to sustain as a society, who do we think we are? It's not going to cut it. So we better put some programs in places and in ways to be able to compensate, or we'll face the wrath of society. And we saw what happened when Mr. Floyd. We saw what happened with that. That wasn't just about Mr. Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Miss Taylor. That was a lot more about the way that society deals with humans, with people. You cannot discard people like that. We have to do, and there's a consequence to pay. If you disrupt someone's lives and they have no way out, they will disrupt your life until we find a way out together. I'm not an advocate for that way of thinking, but that is the reality. And this may seem like, oh, we're just talking about music, but baby, this is bigger than music. This is big business.
100%.
It always starts
so
with music. It always starts. It's like, it's the root of it all. I totally agree with what you're saying, Christopher. UBI is a great solution here because and you can't discard people like that. You just can't. There has to be a way to transition. But what it is we have to look at the right way to pivot, okay? Because I think a lot of people have been led to believe that they are defined by their careers. And that's where it's going to be a big problem, I think, especially with AI. That I think I am a musician, so I define myself that way. But I don't think we should ever be defined by our careers. We're humans. We're incredible souls, you know.
Right.
There's so much more to us than just this label that we've been given or we've decided to put on ourselves, which is even more tragic. And that is why we need to be looked after and learn how to pivot and navigate that system and not be dependent on an idea of who we are, essentially.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to jump in because we are running out of time. So I just want to give one last thought for everybody. Just quickly, say where they can find you, some sort of promotion if you have anything like that, anything kind of like sort of last thoughts. So we'll hand it over to Adrian, then we'll go Anna, then we'll go Christopher, and then myself.
Cool. Yeah, everybody. Adrian Rashad Driscoll on all platforms. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. My company's Collimation. We create immersive experiences, and we tell stories. Sometimes use a headset. Collimation.tv, and happy to hear from you.
So I'm Anna Fahy, and please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I work for Soundbox Plays, and we're dealing with artist royalties in all the web spaces. And you can find us on www.soundboxplays.co.uk.
I'm Christopher Lafayette, founder of GatherVerse, and really just happy to be here with all the leaders that have showed up today. And I have the great pleasure of just helping serve as an ambassador, really just as a person that really wants to help make a difference. And we create these events with the hope that people will come and want to express, and no doubt that that's been manifested today. And it's so heartfelt to see how many people that are with us, not only in our social streams, but also at GatherVerse.live. And we, it's a really big deal. We hope that you go and follow these leaders and these voices of expression because they know their business clearly. And I've just been really stimulated in a way when it comes to these narratives. So thank you, Adrian and Anna, and certainly Russell.
Thank you.
And I mean, Christopher, well said. And just to end things off, you can find me, Russell Bundy, on LinkedIn. Again, like I said, I'm the CEO of Mabot, which is NFT-focused music platform. So if you are a women creator yourself and you do want help, reach out to me. And also, I am now also the director of arts for GatherVerse. So I'm happy to be a part of the GatherVerse team. And thank you so much for having me. And enjoy the rest of GatherVerse FATHOM. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. May I gather, be well. Thank you, guys. Take care.
See you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Peace.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
And that's it. That's what we have. Day one, it's a wrap. 2 hours, that's all we had. Day two, 2 more hours. That's all we'll have. That's what we have for the summer. Think about what's been expressed today, but I want to leave you with this, that when we think about social responsibility, when we think about our communities, people, humans, what are we doing to preserve their lives, their well-being, a meal on the table, a roof over their head, some dignity? That's what this is about. We don't have any HMDs to sell your new product announcements. Our partners do that, and they do it well. What we have to give and what we deem is far more precious: human sustainability, amplifying voices from a place of common care. We cannot do this without you, all of you that are with us. We need somebody to share this message. This is a free event. This is a free platform. But the information is premium and heartfelt. And we cannot build the metaverse or emerging technologies with billions of dollars. But we can build it with billions of hearts. Thank you so much. And until next time, may our gather be well.